Okay.
All right. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Embrace Your Brand. I have another amazing guest on here with me today, and we were just kind of chatting it up and having a great time just before I hit the record button. So that's always a great thing. I have Noelle Kustas here today with us, and she is a women's transformational coach. And I wanted her on here just because she has just such a lovely personality. She just brings such joy to the space. And I feel like she's definitely someone who I noticed has really embraced her own brand when it comes to what she's doing, what lights her up, what brings joy to her heart. And I really just want her to talk about, kind of how she got to that point of kind of embracing who she is and what she loves and bringing that into service to other people. So, Noelle, introduce yourself. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. I am so happy to be here, and that's such a sweet introduction. Yeah, so my name is Noelle Kustas, and I have, it's definitely been a journey. I am a former teacher, so I was in education for over 24 years, and I was in elementary and middle school, and it was an amazing experience. Loved every minute of it. But as life started to unfold, I just really started to feel like I was being called for more and something different. I knew teaching and that part of my life was still supposed to be in my world, but it was going to look different than being in a classroom. So I decided to take a huge leap of faith, and I started Rise to Shine Co., which is a space where I am, as you said, a women's transformational coach. And I also am now a speaker, which is, it's amazing what happens when you open your mind and your heart up to possibilities, how much things have changed. And then, of course, I also love to do fundraisers and things like that with jewelry because Rise to Shine Co. is all about the sparkles as well, but with lots of substance, I like to say.
Yeah. That's so pretty. I love how you're talking about that. I'm like, okay, I want to know more about Rise and Shine Co. It
Uh-huh.
sounds like a fun place to be in. And so tell me
Oh,
about that.
yeah, absolutely. Well, with Rise to Shine Co., I just really feel like it's one of those places that I want it to really feel like a place where you can come into my space and we become like a family, and you feel that coziness, but yet there's a little bit of glam to it as well. So I have always been it's been a funny joke in the family that, when I would tell people what my favorite color was when I was little, I would say sparkles, like thinking that was a color, and
Yeah.
I have always been that girl. I've always loved that. And so I thought, gosh, it just kind of naturally transformed. And to be honest with you, Rise to Shine, actually, I woke up one day, and this is the honest truth. I woke up one day and I felt like God was just saying to me, Rise to Shine. And it just stuck with me in such a loud way. I didn't even know that was going to be the name of my business. It
Mm.
was just, it's time to rise to shine. And that has been with me for the last several years. So it just felt like it was kind of inevitable to name my business that, because that's what I really want to do. I want to help women to rise. I want them to shine and be, I don't like to say the best version of themselves because I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on us as
Yeah.
women, especially. So I love to say, I want women to become their most favorite version of themselves. What does that look like for them? And what does that feel like for them to be your favorite self? Because for me, it changes day to day. I mean, I think we were talking about it right before we hopped on here that, you're going to see me, glammed up sometimes, but you're also going to see me in a baseball cap or a messy bun. And I love that part of me. I love being able to show up naturally and just being the mom and the wife that I am. But I also love to have fun with sparkles and the glam and all of that. So it's kind of a nice blend, really.
Yeah. I really love that you brought that up of like, you don't like to say to be your best self, but to be
Mm,
your favorite self. And I feel like there's such power in that for the fact of like when we say something's the best, like, oh, it's got to be up to this high standard or whatever. And, I think I've heard it many times, but I love how you have just now reframed that in my brain for me of
Mhm.
not my best self, but like, let me be my favorite self. It's almost like, oh, what's my favorite? What's my
Yeah,
favorite thing to do right now? Or what would just make me feel like I am my total favorite self, because
right.
there's times where I might be working really hard on a project, but then there's times I'm like, I like to goof off with my boys. I'm like, boys are
Yes,
goofy. They love silly things. Like literally, I was singing them a Christmas song and changing the words to it. And they were laughing hysterically. I'm like, this is me. This is the mom I love to be. I love to make my kids laugh like that.
love
So
that.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I'm like, oh, now it's like not my new favorite thing to say. I think I'm gonna take that and just add
Yes.
it to my journal, my repertoire of just like the things I need to just say differently. Because I was even telling a friend just this week of I am working on taking out the word try in my vocabulary. Like not
Mm,
saying I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to build a business, I'm trying to work on my routine or whatever. I'm like, I'm taking that word out. It's hard. And I have
yeah.
to catch myself. I will say it. I'm like, no, no, I'm not trying. I am working on this. So,
Absolutely. I love that. And you're so right when we're talking about, thinking about it. And I love the way that you even said it like, gosh, what is my favorite self right now? And because I feel like it helps us, we hear that word authenticity and being authentic. We hear that thrown around a lot as well. But what does that really look like? Because sometimes my authentic self is not to get all glammed up and feel like I have to be my very best, as far as my hair's all curled and, the makeup's on, all the things. Sometimes my favorite self is really just cozying up in my chair, having my little morning routine, spending my time in that quiet space. And that feels so authentic in my heart. And when I tap into that, I feel like um, it's almost where it just exemplifies and it really just like brings out my best. So when I tap into my favorite, it brings out my best in
yeah.
such a beautiful way for me. So I love that you love that.
Great. That as you were saying that, I'm just like, it just kind of makes me think of all the times that I hear about people saying, do what you love
Mhm.
what you do, that type of thing, like enjoy life. It's all about bringing in joy and having fun and doing those things. And like, that's the picture that I get in my mind when you're talking about being your favorite self
Mhm.
is like, what would I super enjoy right now? What can I imagine myself doing that I just know I'm going to have such happiness, such joy? Like you said, even if it's just, no makeup, hair's not done, sitting in your chair, doing your little morning routine or whatever. And like those things are super important because I feel like, just like you said, they help us become our best self. Like,
Yeah.
even if I'm making up funny songs and goofing off for my boys, that is my best self because I'm willing to be kind of silly and embarrass myself and be a little bit vulnerable of like, I probably wouldn't do this in front of a crowd of 100 people and that's okay.
Yes.
you
And
know
what's so awesome about that is that your boys are going to then see their best mom. They're
Mhm.
going to see the best in you when you're tapping into that. So that's what I love as well, because when I truly am in that space and being more intentional about that, I feel like other people also see the best in us. So it really is just this great, it's definitely been a new thing that I've embraced in the last couple of years, because I am that, hyperachiever. I want to do well, but I realized how much pressure I was putting on myself to show up that way all the time.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of reconfigure what does that sound like? What does that look like for me? And joy
Mhm.
is, it's funny that you bring up joy too. Joy is probably my most favorite word in the whole wide world. Again, before I even started this leap of faith into a new entrepreneurial adventure, my classroom always felt like a very living room type of space. That was always the space I loved to create. And I had the word joy everywhere. Like
Mm.
my kids would know when they walked in that joy was my favorite word, because and I started getting gifts, and that's what's so much fun now is I still have little things in my office that my students gave me that, have little phrases with the word joy in it, or just simply, a sign that says joy. And that is part of, when we talk about like branding and stuff, that's part of my brand, is that joy is one of my core values. It's one of my pillars, but it's not something, um, you know, that everyone resonates, or they think like, how do you possibly have joy all of the time? How is that even possible? But I always say, really choosing it is what makes that possible. And so when I reflect on all of the things that we're talking about, it definitely, like, it just is infused within the brand that, that Rise to Shine is all
Mm.
about.
Yeah, yeah. And that's even one of the things, like, when I was getting ready to send you a message on Instagram, I'm trying to look you up and I'm like, I know the first part of her Instagram handle has joyful.
That's
I'm
right.
like
Yes, it
I'm like,
does.
I almost want to call you Joy. And I'm like, no, 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 it's not Joy. But she is about joy. So
Yeah, it's so funny because, again,
yeah.
that was a name that I had started before Rise to Shine Co. even existed.
Mhm.
And so it really just, that's when I know that it's all in alignment.
Yeah.
I just go, there's so many times I want to go back and change that, because I think, gosh, I mean, how professional does that sound? Joyful Noelle.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I almost don't, because of exactly what you just said. People say, oh no, I find you because I remember, oh, it's got joy in it,
Yeah.
So I've kept it for several years.
Yeah. So yeah, that is you embracing your brand, because like you said, you're all about things that bring joy. It was something that you used in the classroom in bringing that space, and just like you literally added joy to those children just because like the word was in the room. You made it an inviting, like, living room type space.
Right.
And you embody it now with what you do with Rise to Shine Co. With just, you want to help people experience more joy in life. It takes
Yeah.
some transformation and finding, like, what is my favorite self?
Right.
What am I doing that actually brings joy to my life? So I'm like, you literally are like, that is your brand.
Mhm.
That is you embracing that. And I think sometimes that when we're trying to kind of figure out who we are, what kind of brand are we building, what are my core values, like, I always say, go back and just do some retrospection,
Yeah.
reflect, what have you been through in your life, what have you done, what are the things that are still your favorites. Like, I had to do this for myself. I had to go back and just journal or think about, what are the things I love doing as a kid, like, write them all down, like, what do these have in common? Well, these things brought me a lot of joy because they were creative things that I loved to do. Like,
Mm.
I probably think, like, I was a weird kid. Like, I would go out and I would collect leaves and put them in bowls, and I would collect this and that. I'm like, I just liked collecting pretty things in nature because I had hoped to make something out of them. Every time we went to the movies, I collected the movie tickets till I had probably a couple hundred of them. And then I would decoupage them on a box or put them in a collage. Or, like, I even sat down with the paint program on the computer and made my own cross stitch patterns. Like, I would sit for hours and just absolutely be in my own little world enjoying that. And I'm thinking, how does it translate to what I love to do now? I love to create things. I love to give people things that are, like, just meaningful, that help showcase a little bit of who they are, give them a really pretty design. Like, there is a rhythm and a pattern, I think, to what you've done throughout your life that is your brand. That's what you're about. And I'm so glad you have, like, shared your story, because, like, I'm seeing that now as you're talking about what you've done before, what you're doing now, and just the person that you are. You really do exude that joy. Like, I just want to smile when I see you pop up on Zoom and you have that pretty background, like all the cute little stuff in the back, the shiny things, the jewelry, the really pretty artwork. I sense the joy, like, coming through the screen here. So, like, I'm so glad that you are embracing that, embracing who you are and trying to help others to embrace who they are. What does
Yeah.
it mean for them to rise, to shine? Like, how are they shining? It's going to look different from you. You
Mhm.
have your way of doing it, and they're going to have their way, but helping them to find that. What are some things that you actually do in coaching them to help them find that for themselves?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I love everything that you're saying. And gosh, even while you're explaining it, I go, this is exactly why you do what you do. And it does, when we go back to, and this is something that I do as a coach, is when we go back and really look at our core values, those core values usually stem from your life experiences, and it has brought you to where you are now. And it's so interesting because I remember when I was going through my certification, because, of course, as a teacher, we are just lifelong learners and we love to just educate ourselves over and over again and do all of the things. And again, walking into coaching was kind of accidental. I knew that I was being called for something more, and I decided to get certified in coaching because I really wasn't looking at it to have clients or anything. I just wanted, it's more like a self growth journey to
Mhm.
understand a little bit more about me. And then, here we are a couple years later. But when I did the exercise to really look at my core values, I actually realized that my number one core value was freedom. And I thought, wow, I would have never said that to you. I wouldn't have even been able to understand or define why freedom until I started to do the work. And then I realized, oh, that's why I do things this way, or that's why I make a decision that way. I just never made that connection. So I love for women to really tap into that, and, providing them the tools and the experiences to tap into that, because once you're able to do that, and I was able to find out that freedom, family, joy, and faith are my core, this is who I am to the core. I am able to then start aligning myself and to start creating a life that I love, getting in alignment of where a client is, to help them to see that and recognize that. Because, as a transformational coach, we're going from point A to point B. So we want to get you to a place that you are not the same, and you are recognizing who you are on the inside that is coming out on the outside, and you're actually living out that life. So it's really about just taking women on a journey and providing them with those experiences, and, like I said, the tools that they can have to be able to start to design that life and see what their possibilities are. Because sometimes as women, we're so overwhelmed
Mhm.
and we don't even know where to begin. We know that we want things to change or we want things to be different, but it's not something that's on our radar of, how do we do that? So what's the first thing that most people do? They go and they get a book, a self-help book from Barnes and Noble, or they may hop on a podcast or something like that. But until you actually start doing the work and you have a framework that you can kind of like unravel the pieces, but then put them all back together. Um, that's really what my passion is to do that, to be able to find those things that you might not have even realized, and really just kind of put them together and put those last pieces of the puzzle together to where you can rise to that space.
Yeah. Yeah. Like as you're talking about this, I'm kind of like picturing, we're all on this journey. We're all
Mhm.
traveling somewhere. We're all going
Yeah,
somewhere. We're all taking this journey. It's like, but some of us, if we don't know what our core values are, we may be traveling in a direction we really don't want to go, you
right.
know? And like you were talking about, I literally was in that space myself of I hit a point where I'm like, I want things to change. Something's got to change. I'm not happy and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel that sense of joy, and I didn't know why, and I'm, like, literally, like, this time of year, I would feel so depressed. I'm like, I don't really wanna do anything. Like, there's
Mhm.
just nothing that gives me any drive, any fuel, even though my kids are healthy, my husband has a great job, we have a place to live, like, all the things are kinda taken care of, but
Yes.
just that inner knowing of, I need something a little bit more, and I don't know what that is yet. you
Yeah.
know, but when you can, like, I kind of had to do that journey myself. I had to either find a podcast or find a book and start diving into that self-discovery and that personal development of like, who
Right.
am I? What do I love? What are the things that make me who I am? And
Yeah.
how do I align my life with that? Like it's even a journey that I get to the point now where I love this journey. Before it was weird, it was different. It's like, what in the world is this? I've never known anybody to like do this kind of stuff. It just was not, something that was knowledgeable to me as a child or a young adult. It was kind of like, you can figure it out. You can figure it out on your own. Like you'll just know what you
Yeah.
need to do type thing. It's like
Mm.
not always, and I think God sometimes helps us out when we're like in those stuck places of like, here, read this. This will open up some new chapters for you, or open up some new possibilities, get your mind thinking and going. And, I love that I have been on that self transformation journey and
Mm.
just like in love finding people like you who keep sharing about things like that of like, what are some tips? What are some things that we can help you kind of keep growing and keep
Right.
developing and seeing where we need to go? Like you're talking about how it was kind of on your heart with the whole rise to shine, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing with this, but it felt right. And that's like
Mhm.
this whole thing, I think, leading up to the end of this year and even thinking of next year for me is like the word embrace is so huge right now. It's like my brain has filtered to see this and hear this everywhere. And I've probably seen or heard it almost like 50 times, I think, in the past week or something. I will run across something and I will read and it'll say about embracing this, embrace that. I'm like, yes, this is my word for next year.
Mhm.
This is that next, thing for me to kind of dive into.
Mhm.
And how do my values that I know of like my faith, my family, living life that I don't have regrets, but I'm like, I also want to make impact. I want to help people in some larger capacity. Like I'm here for a short time. I want to leave something. I want to leave something really good for somebody else to keep using. Like that just feels like it's on my heart. I have to embrace that. Don't know what that is 100% yet, but I'm ready for it. Like I'm ready to learn the lessons I need to be able to get there, to be able to do that. So,
Wow. I love
it's just
that.
it's a whole point of we're all on this journey of life, going
Yep.
somewhere, doing something. And you know what your values are, they're your roadmap. They'll take you
Yes.
to where you want to go. They'll bring you to the destinations and the spots along the road that you're like, you were meant to go there. You were meant to meet these people. You were meant to do these things. And it all has purpose. It all has meaning. And just enjoying the ride,
Yeah.
enjoying every step of the way.
That's so good. And I feel like, because I felt like I was going in circles a little bit when it was me trying to figure it all out on my own. Like you said, people say, oh, just figure it out. Well, again, sometimes life feels so busy, especially when we're moms or we're working or we're stay at home moms, and we're just constantly, for me, I know that I disguised kind of, the stress of feeling like I'm just not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I just disguised it in busyness, and I would just stay busy, but I would try to, on the off moments, try to figure out, and read that book or listen to that podcast. But one of the great things about coaching or mentoring or even investing in a podcast that like really is about that growth, I feel like it collapses that time, because that is something that is definitely also part of my heart, because I'm going to be 50 in December. So I have, it's kind of like I've reached this like moment that I've always wondered what it would feel like when I turn 50. Because, of course, when you're young, you feel like, ooh, that's so old. Now I'm going, gosh, I'm so excited for this time in my life. And I feel like I just get this like new opportunity to really just dive into what I'm meant to do at this time in my life. But what I going back to what I was saying is that collapsing time has been super important for me, because I'm like you. I want to have impact. I want to inspire women to step into this now rather than always waiting, because I was always waiting. Well, I'll do this when I retire. I'll do this when. And And, I look at life now and it changes when you're this age because you start to, your family, you start to lose family members just out of, age or illness, whatever. And you start to have a different perspective on our time here on this earth and what are we going to do with that time here. And I feel like that is where my superpower is really just encouraging women to take that step, take that leap of faith. And there are so many amazing people out there that are helping others to get there. And we are so fortunate now that we live in a space that there are these amazing podcasts and that there are amazing coaches out there and that are really truly, just have such a big heart and want the best for others, and really want to see you rise. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love that, the whole idea about coaching and having someone to help you through kind of that self-discovery phase and helping you to, get from the place you're at to the place that you want to be
Mhm.
is so crucial. It's so helpful because like you said, it condenses that time of you trying to just do it all on your own because
Mhm.
like, we go through life. We can't really do life on our own. We're depending on somebody, some form or fashion.
Yes.
And, when it comes to your life and how you're living, if you just spent 1 year with somebody that was like, I am totally rooting you on, let's work through all the things and see where you're going to be. Like, I know that when I was back in that phase of my life, I'm like, I probably would have loved if I just had somebody like that to just talk with me,
Yeah.
like once a month, once a week, whatever it was. If they could just talk to me and like be able to work through those things. But in my life, I didn't know anybody who was a coach. I didn't know what I needed.
Mhm.
But fast forward to like today, in the past year or two, I have met so many amazing women. I'm thinking, I needed you like 5 years ago when I
Yes.
was going through this stuff and having to figure it out. But that just makes me love them so much more because I'm like, I'm glad you're in my world. I'm
Yes.
still learning from you with the things that you talk about. Like I have worked with, I've had a couple clients actually that are, that have been coaches or mentors for moms. They're like, we just want you to live the best life because we know how easy it is to lose yourself when
Mhm.
you get into motherhood, or even if you're in business and you're working as an employee or whatever it is. It's easy to lose who you are and not really live that fulfilling life.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm all for you because I know that I needed that years ago. I know there's people that need that today. I'm like, I still need that. I'm still learning from you, even though like you're my client. You're sending me things. I'm reading this and I'm like, yes, I needed this. I really needed this. I'm like, I need to go implement this now after I've like fixed up, the graphics and the design for you and put your copy in there. I'm like, now I need to go do that. I'm like, I need to go do the tip that you just sent me. I'm like, I'm almost like, I like working behind the scenes for you because I get all the cool, good tips before they're published and out there for everybody else, like the busy mom checklist or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, I've got
Yeah.
it. I got the first official copy. I need to go and do this.
Exactly.
So like,
Exactly. Well, like you said, we are not meant to do life alone. And I certainly feel like, people are placed in our lives or we come across, people. And I've had the same experience going, gosh, where were you when I was a young mom? I would have loved this opportunity.
yeah,
And, but again, just embrace. And then, those women that are serving the young moms, all of the young moms that I come across, I'm like, you've got to go. You got to go check her out. She's amazing, because that is what I just feel like, that's what really builds that community and that culture of not feeling like we have to do it alone. That's when it can be so overwhelming when because I'm so guilty of that, thinking I got to just figure it out. I'll figure it out, and it's only been recently that I've been able to lay that down and just go, you know what? I surrender to this. And I am so much happier now that I have found people that, I think about it as like doctors and, there's so many different people that we rely on their expertise because I certainly don't know that information, so to have those people in your life, those experts that can help you in certain areas, it just is such a gift, such a gift.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I am so grateful for, because especially with just diving into entrepreneurship in the last 2 years, I have met so many amazing people. I'm like, I didn't know people were out here doing these great things,
Yeah.
helping people with their relationships. Like we were talking about earlier, Jillian Murphy, helping people understand the sales process. Like if you've never been a salesperson and now you have a business, you're selling stuff all the time,
Yeah.
like, and then meeting people like you who are just in there to help women and moms and just, it's such a fascinating world. I'm like, I love this. I really do. And, to wrap things up, I am so happy that I was able to have you as a guest today and just you sharing all your goodness, all your joy with us today. So,
Oh,
thank you again for being here and just thank you for what you do for women. And I know you have something kind of special going on with moms and daughters. If
I
you want to share
do.
that, I want to give you just a moment to kind of let us know what that is.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. So as I've mentioned, I'm a mom. I have two kiddos. I have a daughter that is 21, a senior in college, and then I have a son that is 14. And my daughter is actually majoring in psychology. She's got the bug too, that she really wants to help women and teens. We've been through quite a lot in our journey. So I am, yes, starting a new program that's going to be launching right after the first of the year in 2024. We're going to be doing a couple of virtual events in January, and it's called Vision and Vibes, and it's a mother-daughter experience. And this is where I am so excited. She's actually going to be stepping in and co-teaching this with me. So we're going to be doing this 3-hour workshop together. And it is going to be a workshop where it'll be middle school and high school girls that can join their moms. And we are really going to just be creating a memorable experience of, I feel like as moms, just being a mentor to our girls and them seeing us step into our favorite versions and allowing them to do the same because we have so much to learn from each other. It has been such a beautiful experience to learn from my daughter as she's going through these courses and with what I'm doing and what she's doing. I thought, how can we work together? How can we do this? And how can we add value to other moms and daughters? So we're going to be doing gratitude practices, like learning how to do that. And then also creating a virtual vision board that they can support each other through their vision of 2024. And then also it's going to be about growth and transformation and just really being able to lean in on each other's ages because it's so fun to learn about our daughters at that age and then for them to understand us. That my daughter said something to me and she says, Mom, once I saw that you were human, that you're not just mom, that you're a human and you've got struggles and you've got things going on. She goes, my whole world changed and my relationship with you changed. And I feel like this is just the beginning of that. So I'm super excited. Again, it'll start after the first of the year. So certainly thank you for letting me talk about that today because it's a new thing that we're doing and I'm really, really thrilled about it.
That's awesome. I am so excited for you. When you were telling me about that, I'm like, that just sounds like the best experience. And I know that there's probably moms and daughters out there who, just getting on that same level and learning about each other and just being able to see each other's visions and what they want to do. It's like you said, I think with the whole idea of your daughter telling you, you're human. Like I see you differently now. Like, knowing, okay, you're just another woman alongside me trying to be her favorite self, like
Right.
that's what we need to see with our own daughters and the daughters with their moms. So I'm definitely going to be putting details in the show notes so that you can connect with Noelle. You can see what she's got going on. If this is something that you want to jump into, whether it's Rise to Shine Co. or if it's the mother-daughter vision board, Vision and Vibes, then you can find that. But thank you again, Noelle, so much for being here today. And I just love having you here and hope everybody else has enjoyed this as well.
Thank you. It was such a fun experience. Thanks so much.